right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mastering Price Adjustments, talking about enhancing your listing success. So thanks, everybody, for being on. Drop a comment. Let us know you're there. Throughout this training, if you want to jump on with me and ask questions, just say comment in the comment section, and we'll pull you up here. We'll send you a link to jump up. I always like talking to you guys, call it face-to-face, right? Rather than chatting through comments. So appreciate y'all being on. If you recall, last month in our company meeting, we talked about how we're seeing price adjustments rise. We're seeing more listings that are hitting the market. They're sitting, they're getting activity maybe, they're sitting, they're not selling. So we have to start having those price adjustment conversations with our sellers to set them up for success to get their home sold. You know, even some of the best properties, sit on the market for a minute just because the initial listing price started a little bit too high. So what I want to touch on today is to do a kind of a deep dive, not even touch on, I'm going to do a deep dive on what we need to do to start getting confident in having these conversations with our sellers once we price a house and it doesn't sell right away. So I'm sure we've all been there when we've taken a listing, it went on the market, we're super excited, we get it all ready, it goes to the market, and then all of a sudden it doesn't sell. Maybe we're getting a lot of activity, no one's making offers. Maybe we're getting a little bit of activity. Maybe we're getting no activity at all. And then we start to say, well, I don't know what to do, right? I mean, who's been there where we're excited, we're talking to our clients, then all of a sudden we start getting no offers coming in, and then we don't, we call our seller, and then maybe we don't call our seller that first week. Then maybe a second week goes by and we don't call our seller. And now a third week goes by and we haven't called our seller. Now we just feel a little bit silly because we don't know what to do, right? And typically it's price. So what I want to talk about today is, one, how to have these conversations with our sellers. Two, what information we need to be providing to our sellers to let them know what's going on in the market, also what we're doing to get their home sold. So let's dive in. Again, if you have questions, you want to jump up here, drop the word comment, and I'll pull you up here with me. Or if you just want to type a question in the chat as well, that works too. So let's dive in. Let's talk first, though, before we get into the price adjustment conversation, I want to talk about some statistics here for price adjustment. So these are National Association of Realtor statistics. We utilize these in my career in selling houses. We've utilized these statistics on our listing presentations. And what I can tell you is they are very real, based on real world experience, not just from an NAR stat, but looking at it from personal experience with listing hundreds of homes. These stats are very accurate. And so what these stats say, and keep in mind, this was a slide I would have on my listing presentation. It was one of the first things I would talk about. I would talk about the three things that get a home sold. One is price, two is the way the property shows, and the third is marketing. So with price in this market, we know if we are priced correctly, we should get offers right away. So priced right means offers right away. Now, if we're getting showings and no offers, meaning we're getting a lot of showings, we've all had that listing maybe that had 10 showings in the first 7 to 10 days or more, and no offer came in. And so if we're getting a lot of activity and no offers in the first 7 to 10 days, or call it first 7 to 14 days, first 1 to 2 weeks, we're 4 to 6% off on price. We can call it 5% for it to easily remember it. If we're getting a lot of activity and no offers, 5% on price. If we're getting low showings, maybe in the first 7 to 14 days, we're only getting a couple of showings, maybe 6 to 12% off on price. And if no one's coming to see it, we've had no one come to see our listing, we are typically 12% or greater. So screenshot this. We'll save, we'll send it out. We'll upload the slide deck so you guys have access to all of this, because I have a lot of scripts in here I want to go through. So we'll upload this and get it out to everybody. We'll put it in the Facebook comments. We'll upload the whole slide presentation in there for you to have. But screenshot it as well so you have it. But keep these numbers in mind. These are super real numbers that you can be thinking about. If you have a listing right now and it's beginning a lot of activity and no one's making offers, you're probably just a 5% adjustment away from getting that property sold. So remember these numbers. I think it's super important. Let's talk about pricing strategies as well. So this was a graph, or not a graph, but an image I'd like to use as well when somebody wanted to list their property too high. So I'm sitting at the kitchen table with them. I've walked through the house. I've covered all of my comparable data. and they're like, hey, I understand you want to list it at 350 as the seller. We want 400. All right, it's 50 grand over where I want to list. I would whip out this image here and I would show them that I understand you want 400. And all of the supporting data is saying that the fair market value for your home is $350,000. Now, may I share with you what happens if we list the property too high? And they're like, yeah, sure. It's called the cost of overpricing. So the cost of overpricing, now I know there's a lot of numbers here, so bear with me. I'm going to talk you through it. Number one, my gray line straight across is what we call fair market value. So in my pricing, I think fair market value based on the supporting data and the comparables is $350,000. Now they want to list at 400, which is number two, the initial list price. What happens when we go to market is that number three, we first go to market, especially in a seller's market. Many of you on this call are in markets where you're still in a seller's market, meaning less than about 4 months supply of inventory, 4 months supply of inventory. And what that means essentially is that if no new homes hit the market today in 4 months or less, all of the homes would be sold. St. Louis market, many of the other markets, Kansas City, we're still in about a 3.5 month supply of inventory. Keep in mind though, markets vary, right? I know the Lake is, I think, closer to 8 months of inventory. They're more of a buyer's market. But most markets, what happens is number three is we're going to get the maximum amount of interest on a listing when it first goes to the market. That's when people tend to pay over asking price. When a property is priced correctly, so if we price your home at 350, chances are, because we are still in a seller's market, we're going to get a lot of activity here, and we could potentially get over asking. I'm not guaranteeing that, but it could happen. I've got a home in my subdivision just went for $31,000 over list price first day on market. They priced it correctly, drove a ton of activity, tons of showings in, got $31,000 over asking. So things like that happen. But what happens though is the market interest typically will not reach high enough to hit a super overpriced listing. So in this scenario, if we listed at 350, maybe we get 380 for your home. But if we listed at 400,000, the initial list price there, the market interest will not reach that price because it's priced too high for what the home has to offer. And what happens quickly is that market interest starts to fall. Market interest number three, as you start seeing, it's falling off a cliff. That green line is falling quickly. And what we need to do now as the agent and seller is start making price adjustments. So market interest is falling off, which also means fair market value starting to fall. So we need to start cutting our price, and now we're doing what's calling chasing the market. We're chasing the market, and we could potentially end up somewhere down at number 6. Now, what I would ask my seller is, would you rather be at number 3 or number 6? Well, of course, number 3. All right. So number 2, that's not in the realm of reality. The home's worth $350,000. We might be able to get you more than that if we price it correctly out of the gate. But if we don't, chances are we're going to end up somewhere down near number 6. Wouldn't you rather have this home under contract and get the maximum amount of money for it now rather than waiting 3 months and getting somewhere down near number 6? Well, yeah, absolutely. That's why we should price it correctly. So this is a powerful slide, in my opinion, just to show them the power of pricing it correctly. The other thing I like to share with people as well is that when we price your home at market value, 60% of the buyers are going to be looking at your property. So what do I mean by that? We know when a home goes to the market, it goes on Zillow and Realtor.com, and we push it out to over 350 different real estate related websites. When it's priced at market value, about 60% of the buyers see that property, right? When we price it 10% too high, the number of people looking at that property goes down pretty significant to about 30%. Also in reverse, if we price it below market value, 10% or 15%, we get a lot of eyeballs on that property. So that's why when people see a property that's priced, it just shows great, right? It shows fantastic online. It's got a pool. It's got updated kitchen, updated bathrooms. It's got a great finished lower level. It seems like the price is fantastic for it. We know tons of people go through that property to see it. But when homes are priced too high, that's why they start sitting. Less people are looking at it. So we know the first week on market is going to be the most important, meaning it has to show well online because that's our first showing. It has to be priced correctly because that's when the most people are going to be looking at that property. The longer a house sits on the market, what do buyers tend to start saying? They start saying, what's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. It was just priced too high out of the gate. So just keep that in mind as well. We're going to get the maximum amount of buyers looking at your property if we price it correctly, or even if we price it slightly below market value. The market will always correct itself, meaning if I underprice a house, the probability is high that the market will correct itself and drive that price up. Instant example, a neighborhood home in my subdivision just went $31,000 over asking. They priced it at market value, and the price then was driven up. Keep in mind, this was a house that was pretty original, didn't have a whole lot of updating. It was 20 years old, 22 years old, and didn't have a lot of updating, but they priced it correctly, and it drove the price back up. So just keep that in mind. These are conversations that I like to have with sellers on the listing presentation to set the expectation for what's going to happen if their home doesn't sell. So what I'm going to say is, based on my comparable data, we should be priced at $450,000 or $350,000, whatever the price is. Now, in this market, we should get offers right away. If we're getting a lot of activity, let's say we get 7 to 10 showings in the first week and no one's making offers. One, keep in mind, I'm going to be getting feedback from all of the agents that are showing the property. But if that is the case, we're most likely 4 to 6% off on price. And we need to be prepared to make an adjustment to get your home that will to a price that will cause it to sell. If we're only getting a couple of showings, we could be 6 to 12% off. I know my marketing works. I've sold many homes. All right, what we're really doing here is testing price. So just keep that in mind. Take a screenshot of this one. I think it's super important to talk to your clients about. All right, let's get into the price adjustments now. Let's say we list a house, sitting there for 10 days, hasn't sold. It's time to have that price adjustment conversation. So what are we doing? What do we need to use to get, what information do we need to get a price adjustment? One, feedback from showing time. I want to make sure that I'm getting feedback on every single showing that I have. And I want good feedback. I don't want nice house, not interested, thank you for letting me show. When I get that feedback, I'm picking up the phone and calling that agent, and I'm saying, thank you so much for showing my listing. I see your client wasn't interested in it. What specifically didn't they like about the property? Well, it had, outdated kitchen was dated, flooring needed to be updated. Is there anything we could do to make it number one on your client's list? Those are the conversations I want to be having with agents. No, there's nothing. This was just not the right one for them. There's too much updating. If we gave a flooring allowance, would they be interested? Real world situation. Many years ago, had a client or an agent said, gave me some vague feedback. I called them. I said, hey, just curious. Thank you so much for showing the listing. I saw your client's not interested. What specifically didn't they like about the property? Well, they felt like the carpet needed to be replaced. Okay, if I were to get my seller to make a carpet allowance to replace the carpet, would they be interested? Well, yeah, I think they would. We put a deal together. That simple conversation, rather than the agent calling me and saying, hey, they really like the house, but they feel like they don't want to put the money into the flooring. Can we work something out? Absolutely, we can. So just think about that. A lot of agents don't think, and that's not even creative in my opinion. That's just, it's a little creative maybe, but have those conversations with agents, because some agents just don't think about that. Like, oh yeah, maybe the seller would give a credit to replace some of the carpet or flooring. All right, so getting feedback from showing time. What I would say before you call your seller to have a price adjustment conversation, get feedback from every showing. Because when you don't have feedback, you're going to call and say, hey, I think it's time to drop the price now. They're going to say, well, what about the last 3 showings? What did those people say? Oh, they haven't given any feedback. Well, let's wait and see what they say. Maybe they're interested. So just keep that in mind. Feedback from showing time, every single showing, get feedback, call the agent, have a conversation. Ask them, is there anything we can do to make it number one on your client's list? And very, very important, hit counters. In your MLS, there is a thing called hit counters. How many people are looking at the property? How many clients are looking at it? Has anyone saved it as a favorite? Those are things we need to be looking at. I also want to be looking at recent comparables. I want to do a CMA every week on the subdivision for a couple of reasons, because before I call my seller to get a price adjustment, I don't want to be caught off guard. It's happened in the past. They call and say, hey, what about that one down the street that just went active? What one down the street? I wasn't prepared, right? So make sure you're running a CMA every week to see, has anything new come to the market? Has anything gone under contract? Was anything pending? Did it close? And what price did it close at? You need to be pulling comparables constantly in the neighborhood to see what's going on, because you don't want to get caught off guard. And they're like, hey, well, that one down the street, what's that one listed at? And if you didn't run your CMA, you didn't know a house was listed down the street, right? So keeping up on what's going on in the market is extremely, extremely important. All right, so I always want to run a CMA prior to calling my sellers and having a price adjustment conversation. Motivation, I always want to remind them of their motivation and why they're selling. All right, they're moving to Florida, they're moving to the lake, they're moving to be closer to the grandkids, they're downsizing, they need to get onto one level, they're tired of dealing with the steps. I want to talk about motivation. Reverse prospecting. In many MLSs, there is a reverse prospecting feature. One of the most underutilized tools, in my opinion. If your MLS offers reverse prospecting, utilize it. We have a video on it in networkglobalagents.com. But utilize that. It's essentially, I use it on my listing presentation as well. And basically, I go through and say, look, once your home's listed, I'm going to get access to every agent that has potential buyers that, based on their search criteria. Agents will set their buyers up with search criteria in the MLS. Their search criteria matches this property. I begin emailing those agents, letting them know your home is listed. I pick up the phone and call them as well. And I say, hey, I see you have a client that might be interested in my listing at 123 Main Street. I just sent you an email on it. Do you anticipate setting up a showing? I'm going to do that every single week until I get your home sold. It's my way of being proactive and getting your property in front of realtors who have potential buyers for your home. So reverse prospecting, extremely important. Let your client know what you've been doing to work on their house to get it sold. Not just, hey, it's on all the websites. It's I'm picking up the phone. I'm calling agents. I'm following up with agents that have shown your property. I'm finding buyers. I'm out there actively looking for buyers. I'm running ads on your property. Let them know what you're doing. Hit counters as well on Zillow, Realtor.com, some of the big major websites. I want to be pulling that data as well to see how many people are looking at the property online, how many are saving it as favorites. The reason for that would be because if let's say I'm getting 6,000 views online and tons of people have saved it as a favorite, but no one's come to see it, well, that might be sending a signal that, one, my marketing's working. I'm getting a lot of eyeballs on the property. People are saving it as a favorite and they're not coming to see it. Maybe they're waiting to see if we get a price adjustment. They like the house and not for the price. So we're getting showings online and they're not coming to see it in person. That tells me I'm somewhere between, call it 10 to 12% off on price. If I get that adjustment, chances are good that I'm going to start getting a lot of people coming through the door. They're viewing it online and they're sitting on the sideline waiting to see if we reduce it to a price where they feel there's value. Right now, they see value in they see not value, but they like the look of it. They don't see enough value to want to come see it in person. We have to get the home to a price that will cause it to sell. So look at that too and say how many people are viewing it online. Have those numbers ready to be sharing those with your client. I got a comment here. Let's see. Let's pull that back up, Leo. It seems like a trend that agents are often not leaving feedback. I've picked up the phone to call a few showing agents. One of these were helpful, a couple were not. So good call, Diana. There have been lawsuits going around based on feedback. Now, what a lot of those lawsuits were agents were saying that, no, not interested in the property, price too high, and then they would come in and make a lowball offer. Or they would come in and make an offer. Basically what it said was people were using feedback to try to get a better deal on the property. And if that's the case, that's just not ethical in my opinion to begin with. I believe in good, honest feedback. So you're absolutely right. It is a trend. And and people will also say, as a buyer's agent, you don't have a fiduciary to provide feedback because you are representing the buyer, not the seller. So I disagree in a lot of regards. I believe that we are all in this industry together. We raise the level of professionalism when we provide good, honest feedback. I don't believe in providing bad feedback or saying the price is too high when I know my client's going to make an offer just so I can try to get a lesser price. That's unethical in my opinion. But I do firmly believe in giving good, honest feedback to help one another out and to help that agent position the home to get it sold. So you're absolutely right, Diana. It has become a lot more difficult to get feedback. I still think it's important. Props to you for picking up the phone and calling. I think at bare minimum, we let our clients know the agents have not provided feedback. We're picking up the phone. We've called them. We've left messages. I've sent text messages. I've been doing everything I can to get as good of feedback as possible for you. Again, it shows me as the agent being proactive to help serve my client. So even though we might not get 100% feedback, we know that's the probability of not getting feedback 100% of the time is very high. And I still want to relay to my client that I'm doing everything I can to get that feedback. Some agents are just never going to give it. And, that's on them. and I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to try to get it. So what I'm going to use is this data is what I'm going to use when I have my conversation with my client. Now, let's talk about best practices. So market updates every 7 days. So the best practices for a win, and a win is getting the house sold. Market updates every 7 days. Keep in mind, I used to like to have my price adjustment conversations on Mondays. A lot of people are like, let's get it reduced before the weekend. And that could be a good theory as well. What I found is that sellers' motivation was still high going into the weekend. Hey, we got a house open Sunday, got a couple showings lined up. And so what I found is Monday was great because if the house didn't sell over the weekend, their motivation lessened. They kind of got like, hey, we had the open house. We had 3 showings. Nobody made an offer. We had 12 people through the open house. There's nobody interested. So Mondays were always my day for price adjustment conversations. And I would do that every 7 days. I was calling my client though and giving them updates. So minimum, and that's what I tell them on my listing presentation. You will hear from me at minimum once a week. Oftentimes it's more because as I'm getting feedback, I'm providing that to you throughout the week. But at minimum, you're going to hear from me every single week. That's my commitment and my guarantee to you, so that a week never goes by where you're wondering, hey, what's Michael doing to get my home sold? I haven't heard from him. That will not happen when you list your home with me. That's a good practice I think many of you should implement if you haven't already. I called it my communication guarantee. My communication guarantee was you're going to hear from me at minimum once a week. That's it. Simple. Now they have some peace of mind that I'm not going to be an agent that's ghosting them and not calling them. I used to sell a lot of expired listings. Many times I'd be sitting at the kitchen table. I would ask, how was your experience with your last agent? And they would say, well, it wasn't the best. We never heard from them. We were calling them, trying to telling them we wanted to reduce the price. And it would take 4 or 5 days to get a return phone call. Communication is a very real issue in our industry. And so we want to make sure we are the agents that are giving fantastic communication with our clients. So, and I find that a lot of times the lack of communication comes from the agent not knowing what to say. And that's why we're talking about this today. So every week I'm calling with an update, and I'm giving them those statistics that I just shared with you before. We've had 7 showings. Here's the feedback. I've talked to each of these agents. Here's what they've said. We've had X amount of hits on Maris. We've had 7 clients saved it as a favorite. I've reached out to all 7 of those agents, asking them when they anticipate setting up showings to come see it. 4 of them have already set up showings. 3 of them said they were going to be contacting their clients. I'll be following up with them. We've had 448 views in the last 7 days on Zillow, 627 on Realtor.com. All right, so have that information. Again, always have your MLS up when you're calling them. So pull your MLS up when you're calling them so you can sound educated about homes that are sold in their neighborhood. The one down the street that was under contract, that was pending when we first listed your home, actually just closed. It closed for X price, right? Be prepared to explain why any homes in their neighborhood may have been chosen by a buyer over theirs. That one down the street sold. Ours is still sitting here. What's going on? All right. Well, that house was actually 600 square feet larger. It had a finished lower level, and it was priced the same as yours. All right. So features and benefits. Now, have the MLS up. Again, pull your market report, your CMA weekly, so you can speak intelligently about what's going on in their neighborhood. Very, very important. What I would also say is if your listing is expiring, or if you need a price reduction and they won't do it, go see them face-to-face. Face-to-face is extremely powerful. Back in the day when I first got into real estate, no e-signature, we only had fax machines. I had to go face-to-face to get listing amendments signed all the time. So many documents, I was at the kitchen table. So I would have to go see my clients in person a lot, and it actually worked really, really well. I understand it's time consuming, and it works. Go sit down. 2 things. 1, it shows them you care. Taking the time to go see them, talk to them, provide them with an update. Now, I'm not saying you have to do this every week, but what I would say is that if they're really adamant about a price adjustment, I'd set up a time to go meet with them. Hey, let's do this. I'm going to put together some new numbers on everything going on in your market, as well as everything I'm doing to sell your home and the feedback we're given. Well, how about I just stop by for 15 or 20 minutes? I want to sit down, talk about what's going on and what we can do to get your home sold. So face-to-face is extremely powerful, especially if you need a reduction and I like to call it an adjustment, and they won't do it. Or if you're getting ready to lose the listing, face-to-face is extremely powerful. Now, another thing is when the market starts to shift, I would also be looking at active listings. What else is active in the market right now? What else has come on the market since my home has been active, and what's it priced at? They're just as important as solds. The reason being because a home that sold in the spring may not get the same price today. So be the best priced home currently on the market in the area, and you'll be the next one to sell. So again, study actives as well. What else is active right now? What else is sitting out there? What else has come to the market active? Know those properties as well, and deliver that information to your client. Now, here's one too. Turn down a reduction if you can't get at least 5 to 10% off on the price. There's no point in taking a listing from $219,900 to $214,900, a little bit over a 2% adjustment. It's not going to change a thing in traffic, and no one will notice it. When talking with sellers, always have feedback and showing activity in front of you. As I've mentioned, you never want to sound clueless when they ask about a recent showing. You need to be able to share consistency in the feedback. Remember, no feedback means they didn't see enough value to write an offer. So let's go back to our 1 or 2% price adjustments. It sends a negative signal to the market. If I do a 1% adjustment or a 2% adjustment, it sends a signal to the market that I'm not serious about selling my house. So there are properties out there. I look at houses every single day. There are houses that are sitting there at the same price for 40 and 50 days right now. That sends a market to the buyers out there, that they are not serious about their price. It's sitting there, it's overpriced because no one's made an offer and they haven't adjusted. It means that should I go in and make a lower offer, not even a low ball, but a fair market offer, they probably won't flex off their price. That's what the buyers are thinking. And if I see a tiny adjustment, if I see a $5,000 adjustment or a $2,000 adjustment, a 1%, 2% adjustment, it sends a negative signal to the market as well, to the buyers out there, that they're not serious. Oh, these people aren't going to negotiate. They're stuck on their price. They came down $2,000. I've seen people do a $500 price adjustment in the past. Sends a negative signal to the market. We're looking at using those statistics that I shared on slide 1. If we're getting a lot of traffic and no offers, 4 to 6% off on price. If we're getting low activity, we're probably 10% off on price. And if we're getting no activity, we're 10% or more, 12% or more. So keep that in mind. And again, showing feedback, extremely important. All right. Is there consistencies? Oftentimes too, feedback will say it's priced right and they didn't make an offer. So your seller might say, well, everyone's saying it's priced right. No one's made an offer. Well, they're saying that, but that's why I also want to be calling those agents to get better feedback, because they said it's priced right, but they didn't see enough value at the price to make an offer, which tells me it's overpriced. So I want to be calling those agents saying, I see you say it's priced right. What stopped your client from making an offer? Well, they felt it was too dated. It needs this, and this, and this. Okay, it's not priced right in their opinion, right? It's priced too high for the current condition of the home. I need to know that so I can provide that to the seller. So again, keep that in mind. And then the 2 ways to increase value script. So let's get into some scripting. So let's just recap real quick. Every Monday, I'm calling with a price adjustment. I'm pulling up all of my hit counters from the MLS, from Zillow, Realtor.com, the big sites. I am getting feedback and calling all of my agents to get good detailed feedback. I'm pulling a CMA prior to calling my seller to see what's going on in the market in their subdivision right now or in their neighborhood, so I can sound educated when I speak to them. Those are the things I'm doing before I call my seller for a price adjustment conversation. Now, let's get into it. A couple of scripts. So again, we're going to give you access to all these scripts, so don't feel like you have to know them or take pictures, or you can if you want. But these are things I find to be extremely, extremely important when knowing how to talk to my client. So the 2 ways to increase value. To be the most desired home in your neighborhood, you either need to have the same features and benefits and lower the price, or improve your features and benefits, meaning improve the conditions of the house and keep the price the same. So when we're getting feedback like that, very, very important. There's 2 things we can do. We need to either to be the most desired, we have to have the same features and benefits and lower the price, or improve and keep the price the same. What I would often tell sellers, if they're getting a lot of feedback on, hey, the house is dated, the kitchen's dated, and they're like, well, I think we're just going to take the house off and update it and redo the kitchen and redo the floors and all that. I tend to encourage my sellers not to do that, because they don't rehab houses for a living. Oftentimes, their kitchen budget's going to go way over budget. It's going to take way longer than they thought. If they're a professional flipper and they do this for a living, absolutely take the time to go do it. But a lot of times with most sellers, when they don't update for a living, they're going to run into issues. Their budgets are going to get way out of whack. It's going to take way longer. So I encourage them, rather than putting money into the house that there's no guarantee we're going to get 100% return on that investment, let's do the right thing and lower the price right now to a price that will cause the home to sell. Also, initiate the price reduction conversation. Thanks for meeting with me. All right. Thank you for taking my call. It shows me that you're also concerned that your home is not sold. On a scale of 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be? They're going to say 10, of course. Great, because other agents might price a home too high to get or keep a listing, but my job is to get your home sold for the best possible price and protect your best interest. Is that fair? Right? So I want to be open and honest with you. I want to have open and honest conversations with you on how I'm going to help you get your home sold. Right now, the only thing stopping it most likely is price. We need to have a conversation. I got a question here. When are we giving feedback? Should we give detailed feedback right off the bat? Yeah, I like to. So I'm pulling all of my feedback to have that weekly conversation, but I also provide that feedback right away. And so I want to make sure, because here's what's going to happen. If they don't, if I don't call my sellers with feedback right away, they are going, sorry, I got to send this message real quick, guys. Sorry. If I don't provide them with feedback, they're going to be calling me. So I always want to be ahead of it and calling my clients ahead of time to make sure that I'm giving them feedback right away. So of course, I'm bundling all that feedback together so I can provide that to them on a weekly basis, but I also want to give it to them right away. So I'm calling the agents right away. I'm looking to get feedback because I know my client is anxious. They're excited. Like, how'd the showings go? Do you have feedback yet? So I want to get that and give that to them immediately. And that's why I tell my sellers we're often going to be talking more than once a week, because as I'm getting that feedback, I'm providing that to them right away. So I want to give it to them quickly. And then I want to make sure I'm putting it all together in a report that I'm providing to them on a weekly basis as well. So I'm doing both. So I hope that answers the question. Okay, compare listing results to market statistics. So here's what we're going with. We're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we've had 432 views online. We've had 16 showings in the last 7 days and no offers to date. So according to the National Association of Realtor Statistics, we know that when listings have a low amount of showings, a home's price is 10% too high on average. Similarly, when homes are getting a lot of showings but no offers, which your home is, we've had a lot of showings in the last 7 to 10 days, the home is typically priced 5% too high on average. So we're getting the views and the showings. We know the price is the problem. Does that make sense? Now, here's what I like about this. It's data-driven. We don't have to feel like it's our fault that the house hasn't sold. Who on this call has ever felt like it's your fault because the house hasn't sold? All right. I used to feel that way all the time. I'm doing everything I can. I got it on all the websites. I'm making calls. I'm pushing out marketing. I'm posting on social media. I'm getting tons of people through the house and no one's made offers. It's my fault. No, it's not. It's not priced correctly. It's your fault you didn't price it correctly. That's it. Right? So the price is the problem. Even the worst property in the world, if it's priced correctly, it will sell. It's all about price. And so in this scenario, 436 views online, 16 showings in the last 10 days. No one's made an offer. Right? We are 5% away from getting that property sold. So I want to make sure I'm having that conversation. The price is the problem. My marketing's working. I'm getting people through the door. If I'm getting, let's look at a different scenario. 450 online views, no showings, no offers to date. My marketing's working. I'm getting people to look at it online. No one's coming to see it. They're looking at the photos, they're looking at the price, and they're making a determination that there's not enough value to want to come see it in person. Keep in mind, 6 people have saved it as a favorite as well. I've had conversations with those agents that have saved it as a favorite in the MLS, because we can look at that in the reverse prospecting. They all said they like it, but they're not going to come see it yet. They feel like it's priced a little too high. All right, have those conversations and then relay that information to your sellers so we can get the home again to a price that will cause it to sell. Now, rediscover motivation. Extremely important. It appears the market is rejecting our price. The market. It's always the market. It's not your fault, not their fault. It's the market is rejecting the price. So tell me, is it still your intention to sell your home and move to Florida? Still your intention to sell your home and get downsized into a villa to move closer to the grandkids, whatever the motivation is, get into a different school district. Yeah, it is. It's still we need to sell this thing. Great. Well, don't you think we should do something about this immediately so that we can help you get moved into that smaller home, into that downsized home, closer to the grandkids, whatever the case may be? Yeah, I think we should. Fantastic. So do you think we should roll the dice and see if a 5% reduction makes a difference, or play it safe by making an impact with a 10% adjustment so that we can get this home sold and get you moved closer to the grandkids? All right. Yeah, let's do 5%. Sounds good. Right. I like to use percentages too, because when we use dollar amounts, 10% on a 500K, that's a 50K adjustment. Right. 50K is like, whoa to people. 10% sounds a little bit more. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Based on your percentages, we need to lower. So note these percentages may be too high in many circumstances, but sellers are likely to feel much better about a 2.5% reduction when they are made aware that a 5% is the national average. So again, going back to my 1 to 2%, right? Oftentimes I would let them know that, they're going to feel better. Like, yeah, let's take it down 2.5%. I understand. And we really need, in order to get your home sold, right, 5% is going to be the number to get this sold based on the activity, the marketing we've been doing, the feedback we've been getting. 5% is the number. Another quick script. I don't want to recommend that you give it away, though we need to make a price adjustment that will cause your home to sell now instead of having to make a larger reduction 60 or 90 days down the road. Remember, I work for you, so this must be your decision. Tell me, what are you thinking? Should we adjust by 5, 10, or 15? Let's go with 5. Great. Right? Sign the listing amendment, drop the price, get it sold. Right. So keep that in mind. These numbers are real. These numbers work. It's educating our sellers. And again, I like to educate them on those numbers in my listing presentation. I talk about that number one slide I showed. I talk about that 2 times in my listing presentation, right in the beginning when I talk about pricing the home. And then at the end again, when I start diving into the comparables, I pull that up again. Say, I just show that. A lot of offers. If we're getting priced correctly, we're getting offers. If we're getting a lot of activity, no offers, 4 to 6% off. If we're getting low activity, 6 to 10%. If we're getting no activity, 10% or more. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's talk about some more scripting here, because scripting is the key. Question here. What is this? Is there a specific percentage that triggers the MLS to feature the price adjustment? I seem to remember it's 10%. Not to my knowledge that they feature it. I believe, though, it might. I can't recall in all MLSs if you make a price adjustment, if it pops back up to the top or not. I don't recall on that, but I'm not sure. Anybody know the answer to that? I think it used to. When you make a price adjustment, it pull it. I know, like in a lot of MLSs, it'll have that, price adjustment, or expired, new listings coming soon, all that. So it does show up on there. I don't know if it pushes it back. I think, though, it might push it back to the top of the page on a lot of websites when a price adjustment happens, but I'm not 100% certain on that. If anybody knows, drop it in the comments there. So market-based price adjustment script. Again, being confident in having these conversations with your sellers is the most important thing. Keep in mind, you are the expert. You do this for a living. This is your job. Your clients are looking to you for guidance to help them get their home sold. So this cannot be hey, whatever you want, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's just sit here for 3 months with no price adjustment and hope somebody comes in to make an offer. We have to be giving them guidance. And the way we get confident in this is by practicing these scripts, practicing having these conversations to where it doesn't feel awkward anymore. When I used to have to talk to my sellers back in the day before I was well scripted, it was very awkward conversation. I felt bad. Oh, it hasn't sold. I don't know what to do, get the price lower, right? So when I started getting good at practicing these scripts and having these conversations, the price adjustment conversations were easy. It's also easy to have a price adjustment conversation when you're keeping in touch with your seller. It's super awkward when you haven't talked to them in a month, and then you finally call them, or even worse, they call you and they say, hey, what's going on? Why isn't it sold? I think we need to drop the price. Well, what are you doing to sell my house? Right? When I'm on a team with my seller here when I list their property. It's my responsibility to update them every single week, provide them on what I'm doing, what needs to be done to get the home sold. And I think that's extremely important, that it's easier to have price adjustment conversations when we're talking to our sellers frequently. It's much harder when we don't talk to them, and then a month later we call them or they call us and we try to get it. So Again, getting knowledgeable on the scripting extremely important. So the market-based price adjustment script. Let's see. Jamie says it doesn't on the JC. Jeff City one just shows up private adjustment category, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the third-party sites push it back out. Yeah, I believe that's correct. I need to look at that again. I think it is correct where the third-party sites are going to push it back out. And again, it kind of goes to the top of their page, and that's what we want. The price adjustment is geared to get more eyeballs on the property to get the property sold. So really important there. All right. I wanted to touch base with you about the feedback we've been getting on your home. While buyers love the property, the market is showing that we may need to adjust the price to attract serious offers. Homes in your area that are selling are priced around $300,000. Right now, we're seeing a gap between what buyers are willing to pay and where we are currently priced. Would you be open to adjusting the price slightly to create more interest and get offers coming in? Yeah, we might be open to that. Fantastic. Let's look at this report I've put together. So keep in mind too, I was trying to look for our old seller reports, but we used to provide a seller report to, I found one, but it's not the one we used. It was like an old one, but we would put together a report that I would send them prior to making the conversation that would show, here's all the feedback from showing time. Here is the number of hit counters we've gotten. Here's the number of showings we've gotten. Here's the CMA that we've pulled together. We would send all that to our client ahead of time before making these calls. So then they would have more information to look at as well as I was talking with them. So yeah, we would be interested. We need to get this sold. Yeah, you're absolutely. When I came out a week ago to list your house, I recall you saying you wanted to get this sold, be closer to the grandkids. That's still the intention, correct? Yes, it is. Fantastic. Let's talk about what we need to do to get your home to a price that will cause it to sell. So market-based price adjustment script. Days on market. We've been on the market for 10 days now. We all know that the longer a home sits, the more buyers start to wonder why. The good news is we can prevent that by adjusting the price to align with buyers' expectations. Right now, similar homes in the area are getting offers at around $300,000, and I want to position your home to sell while the market is still active. Would you be open to a strategic price adjustment to help get it sold faster? Yes, we would. Fantastic. Right. Then I go into my data, I go into my percentages. So it's time to, based on the activity we've gotten, it's time to make X% adjustment to get your home to a price that will cause it to sell. So very, very important, right? Simple scripts, when delivered effectively, make a big impression. First impression script. We know that when buyers are looking at homes, they compare properties side by side. Right now, we're priced a bit higher than homes with similar features, which might be causing hesitation. By adjusting the price to be more competitive, we can make sure your home is one of the first they consider. I want to put you in the best position to sell. How do you feel about adjusting the price slightly to spark more interest? Yeah, we're open to it. Now, something else I talk to my clients about is that in the beginning on the listing presentation, as we're signing the agreement, talking about pricing, in this market, if we're not sold, and know your market, right? Like know the market that you're in. So certain areas in your market, homes might be selling in 10 days. Certain areas in your market, homes might be selling in 1 day. Certain areas in your market, homes might be selling in 32 days. Very important to know what the average days on market are for that area. Because if I list a property, then let's just say, hey, we're in a seller's market. In the market I'm in, we're in a seller's market. But I'm listing a villa, and the villa in this development, the average days on market is 42. Well, I know that the buyer demand for this property I'm listing isn't as strong as another neighborhood where the average days on market is 4. So I have to know that as well to give a realistic picture of what's going on. And that may skew my numbers a little bit, right? And I'm looking at that too, and I'm saying, okay, average days on market for this development that I'm listing in is 42. The majority of the homes went under contract after they made a certain percentage price adjustment. So I'm studying all of that as well. Very, very important. I'm looking at that and saying, okay, the last 5 homes that sold in here, they listed at X price. They had to adjust by X amount percent, and then they went under contract. I need to know that information to provide that. So very, very important, right? First impression, I always tell clients too, our first impression or our first viewing is online. So it's all about web appeal. We have to have a good presentation and a good product displaying online, meaning good quality photos. Very important, because that's the thing people are going to look at first, and then they're going to make a determination whether they want to come see it in person or not. The price versus time script. I know your goal is to sell this home as soon as possible for the best price. Right now, the data is showing that homes in your price range are taking longer to sell. While homes are priced at $300,000 are moving much faster, my job is to help you balance getting the most money with the shortest time on the market. If we adjust the price now, we can create a fresh interest and avoid extended days on market, which can lead to even lower offers down the road. Would you be open to discussing a slight adjustment? Yes, we would. Great. Love to come out and sit with you. Again, this is where the in-person stuff helps really well. I understand time is valuable, but if I can go face to face and get the adjustment I need and get this home sold, it's well worth it. So just keep that in mind. Multiple buyer approach. We've had interest, but no solid offers yet. And I don't want you to miss the best buyers. A small price adjustment can trigger multiple interested parties, potentially leading to a faster sale and even better final offer. In my experience, pricing slightly more competitively actually leads to stronger interest and sometimes even multiple offers. Would you be open to making a minor adjustment to get ahead of the competition? When this works is when I've had a lot of activity on the property, no one's made an offer, and I'm talking to these agents and saying, hey, if we reduce by 5%, would your client be interested? Yeah, I think they would. It's almost like a reverse offer in some regards as well. And we're going to talk about that on another training, like the seller delivering a reverse offer to the buyer, because I believe as the markets continue to shift, that's going to be more important than ever. But I'm talking to these agents saying, if we reduce by 5%, right, we're at 500,000 right now. If we went to 475, would your client be interested? Yeah, I think they would. Fantastic. We've all seen it when a home has been on the market for 10, 15, 20 days, and then they make a decent adjustment, and then they get multiple offers on it. It's possible to get multiple offers with a price adjustment. So even though it's been sitting there for a few weeks, we've been there too when I've had buyers in the past when the agent's like, oh yeah, we've got some strong interest now. It's been sitting there for a month. And then I'm like, yeah, there's no way they have strong interest, but they just made a big price adjustment that brings the buyers back into the property. So having those conversations are extremely important. So those are our scripts around this. So I want to go back again to the scripting, but let's look at our best practices again. Well, let's look at our data and what questions do we have on this? So what I find is that getting this data and packaging it together on a weekly basis is extremely, extremely important. Right? Having the conversations every 7 days, extremely important. My day was always Monday. I really like to have price adjustment conversations on Monday. I think it's extremely important. Get the price adjustments out there, but making sure a couple of things. Feedback important. Hit counters. How many views we're getting online. CMA, making sure we have that and know what's going on. Going back to their motivation, all extremely important. So what questions do we have? I know we went through a lot of scripting there. Again, scripting, I feel, is the most important thing we can be doing. The more confident we get at having these script conversations, the better we're going to be with getting price adjustments. So this is a short training, I know, today. But again, I think it's extremely powerful. When done correctly, we're going to sell more houses. Does anybody have a listing right now that's sitting out there that hasn't sold that you feel, hey, if I pick up the phone and have this conversation and I pull this data and give them a call, I might be able to get a big enough adjustment to get this home sold? I want you to think about the active listings you have sitting there right now essentially that's future income for you, right? And we all know who's ever had a listing expire or cancel. All right, who's ever had that happen? Drop a comment. Yeah, we all have, right? We all have had a listing cancel or expire on us. And what does that seller end up doing typically? They relist it with a different agent at a lesser price, and that home sells. And then they think that agent's the hero. And they tell everybody, yeah, my last agent couldn't get it sold. Jim here came in and listed it and did a great job and sold it right away. What did Jim do? Jim lowered the price. Jim did what we should have done, but they didn't want to listen because we weren't scripted well enough to have the conversation. Maybe we weren't providing them with the data to show them what they need to do to get their home to the right price to get it sold. Right? Very, very important. I used to sell a lot of expireds and canceled. Typically, the only thing I did differently was price it correctly. And at that point, the seller they're like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Let's price it. We need to get this thing sold. We needed to get it sold a month ago. right? So if I'm a listing agent currently, I need to be going back to their motivation. Chances are most of our sellers do want to drop the price. They just haven't been given enough information to determine that that's what they need to do to get it sold. It's our responsibility to give them that information. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today. It shows that you're concerned your home hasn't sold, as am I. And I know when we first met, you'd share with me that the goal was to get into a smaller home and to be closer to the grandkids. That's still the case, correct? Yes, it is. Fantastic. Let's do this. I want to share with you all of the data from the showings we've received, as well as all the views and interest we've received online. And right now, what I'm looking at is we've had X amount of showings online. We've had 17 showings in the last 14 days. Everyone, while they've liked your home, they haven't seen enough value to want to make an offer in the property. In my experience, and per the National Association of Realtors, with the amount of activity we've received on your home and the amount of showings, we are 5% off on price. Are you willing to make a 5% adjustment today to get your home sold? Yes, we are. Fantastic. We're going to take your house from $500 to $475. Here's a listing contract amendment. I'm going to take this back right away. I'm going to get to work on getting this adjustment corrected or placed in the MLS. And I'm going to start marketing your property to everybody. I'm also going to be calling everyone that's looked at your property to let them know of the price adjustment to see if they'd be interested in coming back to take a second look and maybe make an offer. It's that simple, right? It's that simple. That's a script. And I know I talk fast, sorry, but it's that simple. We tend to overcomplicate it. Give them the data, provide them with the data, let them know your marketing's working, we're getting the activity, people are seeing it. Or our marketing's working, no one's coming to see it, everyone's looking at it online and not seeing enough value to want to come see it in person. It's not your fault the house hasn't sold. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, it's my fault, I'm not doing enough. You are doing enough. You're just marketing an overpriced product, right? And like the old saying I have, like, I could get the Goodyear blimp to spotlight my listing and 24/7 let everybody know it's for sale. And if the house is overpriced, all I'm doing is marketing an overpriced listing. So I need to get these homes priced correctly and get them sold. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, awesome, Nicole, having this talk today. Fantastic. Good. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Misty says, yeah, Cindy, yeah, we've all had that happen where we've lost listings. Cindy said, haven't needed to do this in a long time. Exactly. Yeah, we haven't had to price adjust a lot in the past few years, right? We could price it 2021, 2022. We could price a home in the realm of reality and it would sell. Right? Even the worst, like we used to list houses and I'm like, God, that thing's a piece of junk and it would sell right away. There was zero inventory, right? We were in 1 to 2 months of inventory. Inventory has doubled since those years. So even though we're still in a seller's market in a lot of our markets, it's not like it was when there was 1 month or 2 months of inventory. So, yeah, let's see. Yes. So Diana says she had one, then they sold to Open Door after putting some lipstick on the listing. Open Door had a couple price reductions. Finally sold about 5 months later. Yeah, exactly. It can sit out there. We don't want our listing sitting. Misty says, I have an overpriced listing. Timing of this is perfect. Awesome, Misty. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, typically it's price. 3 things sell a house: price, condition, marketing. Of the 3, the price is the most important, right? Of the 3, the marketing is honestly the least important. And we don't want to tell our sellers that, of course, right? Because we have to show that we're working and we're marketing and getting out there. But if a house is priced correctly, it's going to sell, right? It's going to sell. So price is the most important. What I find though is get comfortable having these conversations. Practice these scripts. Start practicing these scripts. Practice these conversations. The more you practice, the more confident you're going to feel. And it's super important. Lots of sellers are struggling with prices right now. I haven't been afraid to take the listings. I've been afraid to take the listings, but only if it's in the range that I know we can get where it needs to be priced within these parameters. I discuss this right out of the gate with the seller. I've had to make that drop every time. Yeah, so I think that's important too, Jamie. Yeah, I love you sharing that. I know some people will guide you on never take an overpriced listing, right? Never. I find sometimes sellers need to self-discover. So what I mean by that is if the house is, they want 500, it's worth 450, right? I might not walk away from that list. If they want 600, well then maybe, right? Hey, look, we're 150,000 off. No, we're not lowering. We absolutely want 600. All the data shows it's 450. Yeah, I probably don't want that listing. But if it's within the realm, as Jamie said there, right? It's within the realm of where we can get it low enough, get it down to a price that'll cause it to sell. I'll probably take that listing while setting the expectation, just as Jamie said there. Look, my data shows 450. We can test your price at 500, 485, whatever it is. And if we're not under contract in the first 10 days, or we don't have at least very strong interest in people making an offer, are you prepared to lower it to the price it needs to be? Yes, we are. We want to test here, though, because we think it's worth more. Okay, fantastic. I'll take that listing. Right? I'll take it because they've already verbally agreed to me. You can get it in writing too. You can put it in your agreement that they agree to adjust. Right? I used to do that a lot as well. I had one person push back and say, I know I signed that, but I'm not adjusting. And so it can happen. But yeah, setting the stage. And so that way too, it does two things. One, it sets the stage for that. If we're not under contract, they're prepared to make an adjustment. Two, they can't come back to you ever and say, hey, it hasn't sold. Why hasn't it sold? Well, it hasn't sold yet because when I shared with you, we should have listed it at 450, not 500. All right. So yeah, love that you're doing that, Jamie. I think it's really important that, go get listings right now. They're still selling. All right. What we don't want though, is to not set the stage, not set the expectations. The seller says, I want 600 for it. We say, sure, let's do it. And then not provide them with any kind of comparable data, not talk to them, not have the conversations with them. So many people, I can't express enough. When I used to sell a lot of expireds and cancels, so many people, communication was the biggest issue. Their agent never gave them communication, never talked to them. If all you do as a listing agent is call your seller once a week, you are going to be light years ahead of the majority of realtors out there, because the majority of realtors out there aren't doing that. So that's why I'm so adamant about knowing the scripting, about having these conversations, about practicing these conversations, because once you practice it, it doesn't feel awkward anymore. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It sets you up as the expert. You are the one that knows what it's going to take to get their home sold. They are not. They do this every 10 years. The average person moves every 10 years. You do this every single day. Our clients need our guidance. They need our expertise. They need our professionalism, and they need the data shared with them so they can make the right decision to get their home at the price that will then cause it to get an offer on it. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, drop it in. We'll drop this whole slide deck in Facebook, in the Facebook group under this training. I think that's possible, right, Leo? Yeah, he's shaking his head. Yes, cool. Okay, we'll drop it in so you have all of these scripts. Practice these scripts. What I say too is like when listing presentation, I have scripting around it. My listing presentations are the same content every single time. My buyer consultations are the same content every single time. My price adjustment conversations are the same content every single time. It is a script, right? It is a script for me to have a framework to have a conversation. And so the more you practice that, treat this price adjustment, build your scripts, use these scripts, internalize them, put your process together for what your conversations look like to have with your sellers to get these price adjustments. The better you get at this, the better it's going to be. And Nettie says, yeah, Jamie, sometimes sellers have to self-discover. Yeah, exactly, right? They do. They have to self-discover. So, but these are scripts. The better you get at this and have these conversations, one, it takes the pressure off you too, because it's not your fault the house isn't selling. It's the market, right? It's always the market. And when I can supply my client with enough data and provide them with that and share with them that most likely with the amount of activity we received and the amount of views we've gotten online, if we make a 5% adjustment today, your home will go under contract, right? So just again, hopefully it was helpful. Appreciate you all being on. And if you need anything, call, please. We're working on some additional listing trainings coming up as well. One, the pre-listing, which I think is extremely important. What do we do prior to going on a listing presentation? We're working on that training. I'm pulling all my information together that I used to do. Very important. The post-listing, having those conversations. And again, we have all of those listing checklists as well that I believe are on Network Global Agents. But we'll get those out to everybody too. Leo, do you know where those are at? We have listing checklist, buyer under contract checklist. You can utilize those checklists as well. Off subject from the price adjustment here, but checklist, extremely important, right? Knowing that if I go take a listing, do I have a checklist that I follow every single time to ensure that no steps get missed? Photography gets ordered, goes in the MLS. I'm writing my description, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of those checklists available as well. I believe it's under networkglobalagents.com and under the documents and downloads, I believe. But I'll make sure of that. We'll drop a comment in the Facebook group as well to let you know where those are. So there we go. Leo just dropped the link. Perfect. Cool. So there we are. There's the checklist. You should be able to click that, I believe, and go to those checklists. Check those out. Again, thanks everybody for being on. Biggest thing, every 7 days, update your client. Minimum once a week conversation with your client. Add it in your listing presentation. My communication guarantee was in my listing presentation. I talked about it because I know communication is a huge issue in our industry. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have a communication guarantee. And what that means is I have a commitment that I'm going to update you every single week with everything I'm doing to get your home sold. Oftentimes, we're going to be talking more than once a week because as I'm getting feedback, I'm going to be calling you and providing you with that feedback. But at minimum, you're going to hear from me every week. So you never wonder, hey, what's Michael doing to get my home sold? I will keep you up to date every single step of the way. It's a script. Talked about it in my listing presentation. Gave people peace of mind. My last agent never talked to me. This guy's telling me he's going to update me every single week. That sounds awesome, right? So use those things. Leo, she says not found on the link. So, but go to networkglobalagents.com, log in. You might have to log in. Maybe that's why. You have to log into that website. It's password protected. networkglobalagents.com, log in or sign up. If you've never logged in before, go to the documents and downloads section and you will find the checklist there. Appreciate you all being on. Thank you. We will talk soon. If you need anything, call. And we got more trainings coming up. So looking forward to seeing everybody soon. Thanks, everybody. Take care.